Alright, hey everyone, I just finished managing to edit the bulk of this episode, and now I just want to introduce it a little bit. Because this episode was a massive part on why there was such a huge break between the last episode and this one. Simply put, I've been seeing comments here and there on people saying the reason that you're watching me is because you want to hear my opinions on things. You think that I'll take the time to analyze things and won't jump to conclusions. And honestly, during this entire playthrough, I've been afraid to do just that. While people were saying that, I was wondering if that was actually the case because, again, like I've said and people have confirmed, I know the Fire Emblem community, even though, I haven't finished this game. I know they've put out many videos analyzing the topic and that people have gone on different forums, discussing it. And the people who are here right now, watching, a little YouTuber like me, you've probably done that. And I can feel that when we have conversations. And what's hard about a game like this is because this route is still blind, but I have perspectives from two other routes. So certain things I know, but then there are other things that I don't. And from how I get certain comments, there are perspectives that I just feel like either I can't get because there's information that I haven't gotten, or because you guys have gotten it after discussing with numerous videos where I'm just trying to react for the first time. So I'm going to give this a shot. This episode has just a bit of story content. In fact, I would say it's probably like 10% of this episode. The remaining parts are me trying to tell you all what my real opinions are on things right now, but they are subject to change. Because I feel like if I don't tell you all what my real opinion is on things, but I feel like as we go into these parts where I'm going to be fighting Judith, Claude, Dimitri, etc., instead of trying to be neutral, you need to know where my true feelings lie so that my reactions make sense. Because honestly, and here's I think one of the most interesting bits, as of right now, I don't think I have a problem with Edelgard herself, despite what I'm saying in the rest of this episode, but I don't agree how you all have been seeing her. And maybe that's because there are facts later, like we've barely started the Crimson Flower route. Well, yes, while we've seen supports, like what Edelgard said, that's all good. But as far as the story itself, I haven't even used the post-time skip Black Eagles, so I'll leave a timestamp. If you just want to see my reaction to the story stuff, I'll leave a timestamp probably in the beginning of the episode, so you can watch that and then, answer the question of the day if you'd like to. Otherwise, if you truly are here for my opinion, that's mainly what this is going to be. And once again, this is subject to change. And I was reluctant on saying this too because I didn't want to hold people back from saying stuff, but the more I think about it, it makes sense that I say now's not the best time to argue with me about my opinion because one, it isn't final, and two, there could be stuff in the future that changes it. I'm not somebody who has been analyzing the game, this route in particular, for years and years. I'm someone who's just now playing it, even though I haven't played the game for years and years, and I'm trying to see how this route goes, okay? So with that being said, let's get into the video. Alright, well then, hey everyone, welcome back to some more Fire Emblem Three Houses, and today's the day. I have been here, I think, for over a month? I did a similar thing in the Golden Deer, not by choice, just, with all the supports, had to make sure I got everything out of the way, but I have yet to even use the post-time skip Black Eagles. It's interesting. There is one thing I want to say before we begin, though, because I got a comment from Chris, and I talked to him about it beforehand, and he said it was okay for me to mention this. I originally was going to do a video by itself, but I'm going to make this quick, and it's relevant for this video. He said that it didn't really bother him to take out the other units when playing this game, and that was a very highly liked comment on that episode. And the first thing I want to say is, while I did have a feeling of that was the case for many of the Black Eagle fans, it hit me different when I actually heard Chris say it. Why didn't it occur to me? Well, I think it's best explained on the very reason I was giving you all on why I didn't want to side with Edelgard. I only used that one reason because I thought Normally when I've had conversations with my comment section, the issue is I'm debating with numerous different types of viewpoints who all have different points they want to try to make, and they don't all try to address mine. So my thinking was, if I give you all one point that you all can understand and you focused on, and even if you didn't agree with, you'd be like, oh, all right, well, if that's your one point, then that's cool. And I was saying, Claude, Hilda, they didn't really do anything, so therefore, taking them out, that was what I wanted to focus on. However, hearing that Chris and a lot of other people who liked this comment, it didn't matter to you to take out other units, which is the complete opposite of what I've been seeing in the other routes, by the way. A lot of people seem to look forward to when I got to the war and when I got to the Battle of Gronder Field post-time skip, and when I kept on trying to save students, and a bunch of people were smiling in the comments saying, you gotta do what you gotta do, man, this is war. So I thought that my reactions to taking out students is what people wanted to see, but it really seems like for the Black Eagle fans, you think differently. And in fact, it seems like what I've actually been doing when I've been laboring on that point is irritating a bunch of other people. So, because I have a lot of other reasons why I was against the war, I just thought that would be the most simple reason one we could focus on. But if you all don't care, then, that changes things. And let me say this, it's completely fair not to care, because this is a game, right? We're not actually taking out real people, it's a game. It's a game. Yet, at the same time, I do have to say that type of response is exactly what the firearm community in the past was hoping to avoid, because the point of the firearm games is to care. That's what I wanted to say, is that in the past, things like casual mode and especially divine pulses or turn wheels, they didn't exist. And when they were first introduced as a concept, the firearm community had a lot of backlash because it would make people less likely to care about the games. When you don't have a choice, like for example, the Battle of Garrigmok, right? I went through and assuming that I made all my other moves perfectly, and then at the very end, I misread something, and then Petra falls. Then I have to make a decision. I can end the map right now, or I can restart. You saw how long it was, over 2 hours. I can replay that map for over 2 hours again because there's a unit I want to save, or I can decide to move on. Those type of decisions help add to, because yes, while this is a game, it tries to make it to where your firearm characters aren't just chess pieces, because I'm a chess player as well. And chess, I don't really care if I lose a pawn or I do care for higher value pieces, sure, but if I need to make the sacrifice to win the game, I'll make that sacrifice easily to win the game. But for this, it's like that piece has a face, a name, a backstory. But with casual mode and with turn wheels, then you don't really get, your team is fine, no matter what you do. That's why it was so important for me that not just I do a route, meant like the game is supposed to be played, but my first, when I had no idea how the game would turn out, or what I had to do. So I am saying all that to say, I understand that people, you don't care, obviously it's a game, but it is the point, I believe, of the developers for you to care. So, with that being said, there's one more thing we're gonna do. And one other thing I'll add is that when it comes to YouTube as well, that further gets me attached to things. That's something I don't think many people understand, especially since I don't even know if this is the same case for all the YouTubers. But I treasure my experiences with the characters more when I've shared them with so many other people. So that further adds another layer of why I would care. So simply put, there is no way I'm going to stop caring about the Alliance. But do know that that is not the only reason that I am against. Yeah, I should end it with this. Because I saw a comment underneath Chris's that was saying a bunch of people seem to only care for the name units. That's not me. I had this reaction to when Rhea was mowing down the people of the Empire. I feel bad for the people, though, that are just following Edelgard's orders. I hope this was worth it, Edelgard. For me, I'm the same person who thinks and looks at battalions and says, the battalions we have, all those people, you know, Petra has 105 soldiers in her battalion. When she gets this crit, or battalion wrath, yeah, it's really battalion wrath. That means that she's lost most of her troops and she's popping off. That's how I choose to look at it. So, anywho, just saying, there's no right or wrong way to look at it, but I do think it's the way the developers hope that they would get you to care about the characters. That's why they spend so much time with these supports and things like that. You know what I mean? So, alright. That being said, Bernie, I could use your help. Dexterity.
A little more secret spice, and hey, no peeking.
Bernie, you should watch that pose though. Things are different now that you're older. Huh. That bell has a different vibe to it now, though, I gotta admit. Because now I'm officially done. Let's go. December 31st. End of the year. This day is also important. It's a birthday. Someone I know. Alright. Any certifications that I need to make? I think Edelgard's the main one. She's currently... Yeah. Okay. I've got no complaints with that. Okay. Oh, Yuritsa. Is he, Yeah, he's the Death Knight class. He's able to use magic? Wow. Alrighty then. Wait, sword training and looking after cats are his interests. Likes sweets, cats, Mercedes. Dislikes nobles, busybodies, alcohol, his father. Interesting. And he's got the same crest. So, but yeah, there's no way to get his relic. Interesting. No, there is. No, there isn't, because I wonder if they did that on purpose. Alright. Enough stalling. Let's do this.
The newly crowned king of the Holy Kingdom of Fargus, Dimitri, has declared fealty to the Church of Seros.
Yeah, I was
raising
thinking!
an army in preparation for all-out war with the Empire.
He doesn't have his eye patch! This is...
As leader of the Alliance, Claude maintains a facade of neutrality amidst infighting between those who support and those who oppose the Empire. Meanwhile, the Black Eagle Strike Force plans to capture Alliance territory before Edelgard takes the war to the Kingdom and the Church of Seros. With sights set on capturing Deirdre at the center of House Regan's territory, she leads a march across the Great Bridge of Myrddin to establish a bridgehead.
Judith was like on the other side of the Alliance. But alright. According to the map.
We're about to commence our attack on the Great Bridge of Myrddin. But first, allow me a moment of your time.
I was kind of hoping we had to deal with the group. What's up, Hubert? What do you need?
It is something that I can only ask of you. Listen well.
Okay.
It concerns Lady Edelgard's uncle, the regent of the Empire, Lord Arundel.
Okay.
Although he is currently cooperating with Her Majesty, he maintains his own sizable military troops.
That's... okay.
It seems to me that his plans differ from our own. I assume you recall a certain group's scheming from 5 years ago?
Yeah, I would... you mean the ones you were teaming up with? Yeah, I remember.
Solon and Kranya. They both served Lord Arundel.
They served him? Okay. I'm gonna ask this, even though I'm thinking this, and I know Hubert would want me to say this. I'm trying to get as much info as I can, even if I look like a fool in doing so.
Professor, I understand how you must be feeling, considering what they did to your father.
Do you though?
I know it must be foul to even consider cooperating with their kind.
See, this is the kind of conversation I was thinking about. I was like, somehow I thought the Agarthans were just out of the picture. One of the big things I was hoping for in this route is that part. How did the Black Eagles take to having to work with them, especially when they have fought them directly in this route? But it seems like we've kind of skipped over that.
However, their power is essential for us at present. Edelgard also strongly opposed the idea at first.
Not Lady Edelgard? So what then? We were using them and the game just wasn't going to shine a light on that? Because that's the only...
Our enemy is the Church of Seros itself. It cannot be toppled with the Empire's might alone.
Then all the explanations that I came up with for why things would make sense now go out the window if we have been using the Agarthans the entire time.
Those working under Lord Arundel are extremely hostile toward the Church.
Go back. So, in other words, their common goals and all that.
And the enemy of our enemy is...
Yeah.
Well, I think you sufficiently understand by now.
Okay, this is why I asked you. Then I do have problems then. But we'll think about that later. Are you sure that's a good idea?
Until all of Fodlan is united, it is a necessary evil. As for how we deal with him afterward, time will tell.
You've got to be kidding me, though. Because, the only reason I was saying that certain things were okay is, because the Agarthans weren't absent. But they were there. I gotta think about this more.
Regardless, Her Majesty and I wish to join our power with yours.
And you tell me 5 years after the fact? Not... I don't like it.
You should know that in her heart, Her Majesty regards that group as enemies of herself and her family.
Yeah, I know.
They used her father, the former emperor, as a puppet, and murdered her siblings with their vile experimentation.
Yeah, I'm aware.
I believe Her Majesty may have told you some of this herself. That is why this was a very painful decision for her to make.
I would like more details on that decision, but I feel like Hubert's not going to give me them. Number one of the biggest things that I was giving Edelgard is that I was hoping she was forced to make this decision. And honestly, it could still be that, because the Agarthans, Lord Arundel in particular, because now I'm even more convinced he's an Agarthan. If he has a sizable army, if Edelgard openly opposed him, then that means that he would... they would be at odds with each other. They would clash. So, for Edelgard to go along with his whims would be beneficial. But that doesn't seem how Hubert seems... That's not how Hubert's phrasing it. He's phrasing it as if Edelgard decided to work with them for the sake of her goals. Which is the impression that I got from other routes. It's yeah, sure, it might have been beneficial for Edelgard to work with them. It might have been Sorry about that. My recording cut off. It might have been detrimental for her to go against Arundel. Nevertheless,
I will do all I can to ensure her suffering is not in vain. And I hope I can count on you to do the same.
again, I need to think about this before I make a decision, because this does change what I initially thought.
As for all I have told you, please keep it in mind as we march forward.
And I think I will be able to do just that, Hubert, because I have had some time to analyze what you have told me. To be honest, in the state that I was in, I wasn't able to fully analyze the facts. Now I have. And let's start with something that I think is pretty important. He said Solon and Krania work for Arundel. Honestly, I didn't say it at this point, but I was thinking, Arundel, no, they work for Talus. I was in the shower and I was replaying Talus's voice in my head, and I was like, wait a minute. Do he and Arundel have the same voice? And I already told you all, I've been thinking Arundel was an Agarthan for the longest time. But it could be Arundel is the Agarthan. If so, a lot of things make sense. Such as how he and Edelgard even got into contact in the first place. You know, I was wondering, like, how did that meeting even take place? But if he was posing as her uncle, and had, depending on when the change happened, he could have taken her to the kingdom, then it would be very easy to convince Edelgard that they could work together. It would also explain, you know, why people were stressing in the early parts why Arundel had control of the Death Knight, and, you know, Dimitri was investigating him when he stopped donating to the church. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was Talus necessarily, but that's more to the case of him being replaced with an Agarthan. I think there are two reasons why I didn't entertain this before. One was Cornelia. I assumed that she was an Agarthan as well, but we never saw her true form, which leads me to the second reason. The only reason Talus said that he saved Krania was to prevent the mystery of their bodies being discovered. I was assuming that they would transform after they died. And we took out Arundel and the Blue Lion route, and we didn't notice anything. Now, they could have just done that to keep the surprise for this route. And if that's the case, then, you know, that's... Well, again, I'm assuming he is an Agarthan. I'm assuming he is Talus. So we'll wait and see. And then I'll give my thoughts on him not transforming or not. Well, I'll just say it now. That shouldn't be the case, you know. If they were Agarthans, and that is the whole point, because that was the main reason Talus came in to save Krania, I feel like that should have been consistent. But again, that's me assuming. But the second thing I wanted to say is that this, I feel, is supposed to be Edelgard's flaw. What do I mean by that? I felt like all three of the house leaders, their routes couldn't be perfect, you know. As I saw a lot of people saying that they were hoping that Three Hopes wasn't a golden route. So that means each one of the routes should have something that, you know, doesn't quite work. It's, you know, not everything's perfect. For Claude's, I felt like it was the least attached from the story, and Claude's goals were completely derailed by the war, right? Like, honestly, I feel like Claude's game would have been completely different, but then Dimitri and Edelgard came in, and it's like, we're trying to, you know, do things with foreign nations and stuff, you know, and now all of a sudden Folan itself is going to war. I feel like relationships with Almyra and perhaps even Dagda, Srang, you know, that could have been what the Alliance would have dealt with, but it was thrown off. So Claude never got to truly accomplish his goal. I feel like that is the flaw of the Golden Deer route. And with the Blue Lion route, the flaw, which, depending on who you ask, doesn't make it less enjoyable, was that Dimitri lost his way on trying to accomplish his goals. I think that's very obvious, you know? To the point where he has even taken out even kids. And his path afterwards is a path of redemption. That's the flaw in the Blue Lion route. And that brings us to Edelgard's route. As I said in the beginning of this episode, I wanted to focus on the point of me not liking that characters that I had cared for would die in this war as being my main point. Let's throw that out, okay? Because that isn't even my main point. No, my main point, because if them dying if I truly felt that that was the best path, then I'd be sad, but I would support it. But I feel like Edelgard's flaw is working with her enemies instead of possible allies. Let's go back to pre-time skip when Edelgard was the Flame Emperor and Solon had just did what he did to Remire village. Edelgard told us if she knew what they had planned ahead of time, she would have been able to stop it. And I was saying during that moment that she couldn't control the Agarthans. Then we flashed to here, to what Hubert is saying that they were a necessary evil to accomplish their goals, and how Arundel has a sizable army, and Solon was working for him. But you all know what I have said during this entire time. Edelgard had the opportunity to actually get allies here in Garreg Mach to help her. And I feel like she was the one standing in the way of that happening. Because when she came here, she never truly wanted to get allies. Because I feel like she already came here classifying everyone as an enemy. That's how all the routes in this game start. Claude, Dimitri, and Edelgard are being attacked by bandits that Edelgard sent to kill nobles. In other words, her actions would have already led to Claude and Dimitri's death at the beginning of the game. That shows where her mindset was, I feel, already. Hubert claims that this was a necessary evil, but one thing that I never saw, and I was watching during the entire Black Eagle round, is that before Edelgard revealed herself to be the Flame Emperor, I never saw her confirm her suspicions with Rhea. I'm not asking Edelgard to reveal her plans to Rhea. Like, obviously, that's the worst possible thing she could do. But she is in the position where she could ask for Rhea's help to something that's unaffiliated. But Edelgard was talking to a bunch of people, even Gilbert, about Cress. But would it have been the worst thing to expose some of the crimes that the nobles have done to Rhea and ask her input? Not on her herself, because for some reason she thinks if she reveals that she had multiple crests that something could happen to her. I haven't seen that from Rhea, but you know, I'll give you that, because it is possible, and I think it's very reasonable for her to assume that Rhea could have her assassinated in a way that looks like somebody else did it. I'll believe that. But for example, Ferdinand's father, if the whole point is that those with crests are supposed to be those chosen by Sothis to rule, then would it be so crazy for Edelgard to ask Rhea on her opinion on his terrible rule and what she should do? You know, ask her for advice. Because I think what's very important is that I never see Rhea's response to any of the bad deeds of the nobles. You know, that's never something that I as a player have seen in all three routes. We've seen how Rhea reacts when people attack the Church of Seros. We've seen how Rhea reacts when other areas are in danger. So for me, I'm saying, why wouldn't Rhea react if some of the nobles are doing unjust things? And let's take it one step further. When it comes to Edelgard remembering that she had a friend in the kingdom who told her to carve out her own path, she's the one who forgot Dimitri, while Dimitri, even though she went through a hair change and looked and probably acted, from what I could see, completely different, Dimitri still knew that that was Edelgard, but Edelgard forgot that that was Dimitri. I'm pretty sure that was symbolic, as in, once those experimentations happened to Edelgard, the old her, she said it, the old her died, and a new her was born, and that new her could no longer consider working with someone like Dimitri. Whereas the old Edelgard, who hadn't gone through that, would have been able to work with Dimitri, the new one who was born with that pain never even considered it. Because from what I'm seeing, Dimitri would have been a very useful asset and taking down Arundel in the same way he did it in the Blue Lion route. Arundel comes, let's say he's, attacking the Alliance, and then Dimitri and the army of the kingdom surround and surprise him due to Edelgard giving his position away. Because, I'm thinking the Empire wouldn't really want to fight the Empire without a good reason, or at least it's assumed that they're the Empire. So then Edelgard could leave Dimitri to handle things. Because if Arundel is indeed an Agarthan, he is part of the party responsible for the tragedy of Duscur. And as far as Claude, she did try. I saw in the Golden Deer route that she tried to talk to Claude. But not only him, but also myself was thinking, the way Edelgard was approaching the situation, Claude didn't have to answer her. If we knew that there were bigger stakes at risk, because I heard what Edelgard said at the end, that it seemed like she wanted to fight, but realistically speaking, she was the only one who knew just what she was about to do. So at least trying to get Claude's opinions on Crest, like she had done, like if she can speak on it in front of Gilbert, who is literally a member of the church, why couldn't she do it for Claude? Because as she later admits, she and Claude's goals were the same. And I say that because one of the things I feel like this route isn't going to do is highlight how dangerous and what all the terrible deeds that Cornelia and Arundel and the rest of the Agarthans are doing. I mean, I can't help but feel that it was a developer's purpose to say that Edelgard could have worked with both of them, because that's the impression that I get in going to the other routes. Dimitri's main goal was revenge on the people who were responsible for the tragedy of Duscur, and Claude's main goal was peace. Both of their goals weren't even to rule the kingdom and the Alliance. Like heck, in post-time skip, Dimitri feels like he hasn't earned it, I've always said for Dimitri that it was unfortunate that he was in the position because he was the only one that could fulfill it. If a normal person just went after revenge, it wouldn't have been as devastating. But if the crown prince does, and they need him to rule afterwards, it's like, well, yeah, now we got a problem. And I think if all three armies, if they had walked up to the Church of Seros, especially if Edelgard explained to them how crests work, and they demand that Rhea tells people the truth, I think that would even save Seth and Flayn. I am not sure about Rhea, but from what I've seen from Rhea when she isn't the angriest she's actually been in her entire life, which will probably be in this route, she seems like she would have every reason to want to get rid of the crest system. Especially if she believes that this action is the result of Sothis coming back. Because this wouldn't be Byleth betraying her, this would be Byleth saying, Rhea, you know that Sothis didn't give crest to the humans. This system is flawed because of that. Something along those lines. As Rhea has also said, she plans to step down because she planned to give the role of leading Fódlan to Byleth. To me, it just seems like it all fits too perfectly for that not to be what the developers are saying. Especially when Edelgard has a quote of her saying,
Is it so risky to reach out my hand?
It's like something in her is telling her that would be the right thing to do, but she continues going on her path anyways. So long story short, I think Edelgard's flaw isn't really the war in particular. I think I've been saying it wrong. It's more so who she teamed up with to fight this war. Because if she had teamed up with Claude and Dimitri, then it truly is a war for Fódlan. Because then you got the three parties and they're fighting for the same thing. To get rid of the Agarthans and to free Fódlan from the lies that Rhea had been telling them. We'll see what happens with the rest of this route, especially since Dimitri now doesn't have his eye patch. And he's been able to stay in the kingdom, surrounded with his friends. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, if Dimitri's been in the kingdom, they could probably have kept him. I was thinking the big thing that made Dimitri go off the rails is being betrayed by Cornelia and then being off on his own, stewing in his thoughts for a while. But if he's been around friends, they might have been able to keep him sane. And then there's Claude. We'll see what Edelgard does with those two, but I will definitely keep what Hubert said in mind here. To see if Talus and Arundel are the same person, because that could also change some dynamics. And to watch the actions of Dimitri, Claude, and Rhea, though I'm honestly kind of scared because we've deviated so much from how the other three routes And my only explanation was that the Agarthans weren't there, but now it more seems like they're trying to paint things in the best light for Edelgard's route. Because, for example, there should have been monsters in the battle that were fighting alongside her, the ones that had to have been people. They were gone. They weren't to be seen there. And there have been Fire Emblem games where you can actually literally summon monsters to fight with you. Or, you can be a dragon yourself and transform. So it's not as if those monsters couldn't have been allies. And once again, I personally thought there would be no way for Rhea to leave her post, but now she did, and because of that, a lot of things have changed. So I'll speak more on that later, but for right now, I'll remember what Hubert said, and I'll see if anything changes from what I've said from this point on. But with that, let's get back to the episode. Does anybody else know? I gotta wait.
More importantly, I implore you to fight as best you can for Edelgard. From the bottom of my heart, I beg this of you.
Uh-huh. See, that's what I was saying. I can focus on just Edelgard's words because I'm also forgetting the means that she did to get to this point. And now it is time for the question of the day. And I think I'll ask a different type of question. I just want to know, how long have you been a fan of the Fire Emblem series? Because, I don't know if I'm talking to somebody who's been playing the game, since the beginning. Because while I know some people in the comments, that have been with my channel for a long time, I know that they actually got started with the series with this game. There are many of you all who I'm like, well, I don't know how long you've been a fan, so I figured this be a nice question to kind of divert from the episode. So with that being said, please post your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.